family and I lived in Cambodia from 2000 to 2006. And just before we came back, we met another American man whose name was John. When John was a young boy, he was bigger than everybody else. He also had a learning disability and a stuttering problem. But because at that time they really didn't understand much about stuttering problems or about learning disabilities, and because they didn't want to embarrass John, they just continued to pass him on. They passed him on through first, the second, third, up at the 5th grade. And even in the 5th grade, he was functionally illiterate. But John loved stories. And one day he decided in his broken English that he would attempt to write his own story. He wrote a story, and after he was done, he showed it to his sister. His sister looked at the story and said, "Hey, John, this story is pretty good." So John, with all his pride in his heart, decided he'd take that story, show it to his teacher. His teacher looked at the story, read the story, looked at John, looked back at the story, looked back at John. Then she asked John, "Hey, John, who wrote this?" John, with all his pride in his heart, said, "Hey, teacher, I wrote this." The teacher didn't believe him. She threw the story back on the ground and shooed him back to his desk. After John was in the 5th grade, they still decided to pass him on. He was passed on up into junior high and even into high school. And he was in high school, he was functionally illiterate. But John decided, you know what? Nobody in my family had ever gone to college, so I think I should go to college. Now, John didn't have any ability to go to college. But John did figure out that he had a learning disability, and he figured out what he had to do to study in order to succeed. What John would do is he would take one book at a time, and he would look at one page at a time, and he would read the first paragraph of the first page 3 times. He'd do the same thing for the second paragraph 3 times. He would read the first 2 paragraphs together 3 times, and then he'd read the whole page together 3 times. And he did that page by page after page. By the time John was done, he'd practically memorized material. In that way, John got through college. And now, you know what John does? He travels the world telling stories to adults and children alike, and teaching other adults how to tell stories. The point of this story is that, hey, whatever your hope and dream is, you don't have to be confined by your past. You don't have to be defined by your failures. Wherever you've been, whatever you've done, is just another point of experience for you to learn from and to grow from. So what is your wildest dream? John's dream was to be the storyteller. And now John, even though he still stutters a little bit, travels the world as a world-class storyteller. Now, John's story would not be complete if we didn't tell you that somewhere at the end of high school, John found peace. He found hope. He found the love that comes from Jesus Christ. The unconditional love that he was a special person, that despite his disabilities, despite the fact that his teachers did not think that he had the ability to succeed academically, John came to realize that God had a wonderful plan for his life, and that John had special abilities the world needed to hear as a world-class storyteller. John gained confidence, he gained self-discipline, and he gained hope. A hope that allowed him to overcome his despair. A hope that allowed him to be the man of God he is today, and the blessing to others he is today.